The logo you see right there is the White Sands First Nation logo, and that's the reserve I am from, in which I am one of 8 to graduate this year from high school to move on to a post-secondary school. This topic connects me by that no one of my peers from grade 8 are moving on to any post-secondary school anytime soon. They are struggling in school, they don't want to go to school, they just want to go back home and pretty much do nothing. My reserve is half the size of the school. The city seems way too big. They get overwhelmed by all the people. They just don't like how crowded anything is. They just go home where it's nice and quiet and where they feel like it's home. This graph shows that Indigenous people have a lower graduation rate than non-Indigenous people because they won't like school. They just want to be home. They get overwhelmed by the city and they just want to be back to where it's quiet, where it's peaceful for them, where they feel like they're welcome and home for them. The picture you see here is a picture of a residential school. I feel like that my grandparents didn't like school, so they don't send their kids to school, and they don't sending their kids to school, and it's a big chain reaction on whether or not that Indigenous people get their schooling, get an education, but I feel like they just don't like school because of what happened to them in residential schools. The man you see here is Phil Fontaine. He is an Aboriginal man with a doctorate degree in education. I feel like he is a great role model to me on how he can get a great education like any other person can. Any Aboriginal student, including me, want to feel welcome when we go to post-secondary schools many hundreds of kilometers away from our reserves. Locally, it is very hard to find any kind of job with anything lower than a high school diploma, which means that anyone without a high school diploma has a low-paying job, don't like their job, or something they don't want to do, so they just quit, do nothing. If they have no money, they'll get evicted from their homes, be living on the streets. Some Aboriginals have been doing that, and typical stereotypes from non-Aboriginals are like, oh, look at this typical Indian laying on the street, he's drunk. All this thing is because they don't want to do anything and go to school. They don't want to go to school because they don't like it. My grandpa did not force any of my uncles, moms, or aunts to go to school because he was beaten in school, and now they don't have any kind of degree. My uncles and aunts barely have a high school diploma. My grandfather has a grade 3 education, and he was lucky enough because back in the 50s where he was trying to find a job, he was offered a job at a mill. That's where he worked for 60 years. And now none of my aunts or uncles have a higher paying job because he didn't force them to go to school. My mother pushed me in school every single day to get a high school diploma and move on to get a college degree and get a nice high paying job. She was not letting me get a low paying job on minimum wage or anything lower than like $20 an hour. 43.7% of Aboriginals in Canada today do not hold any certificate in school. Globally, in any third world country or any kind of lower developed country or continent, always have a lower education or no education at all. In Africa, they have to walk 3 kilometers a day just to get to school, and it's harder for them to get an education. We are helping this problem by the University of British Columbia has an Aboriginal program at their university, same with Lakehead University. They have Aboriginal programs for anyone to take, and they are great on learning about Aboriginal education and Indigenous problems.